Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are days away from the premiere of TNA on AMC. But I'd say those words. It is a big week for the company. AJ Styles is set to return to Impact for the first time since 2014. That's 12 years he's been gone. It's expected to be a big night. We're going to talk about the news surrounding the show. Um, real quickly, though, the reward award show I think will be next week for 2025. We'll do a TNA on AMC review. It might be a bulky show. We may record it on Thursday on Wednesday, depending on that week, because we got what we have. I think Genesis. Genesis is the 17th this week. Yeah, we'll have the fallout of TNA debut on AMC, Genesis, plus the award show. We're looking at like a 90-minute episode minimum, I think. So I think next week we may do it on Wednesday when I have more time. The other thing, we're going to reach out to the crew, get the voting in. So hopefully we can get all that in this weekend. So fingers crossed. As far as the TNA aspect of it all, I think this week is going to be, if I may be so bold, rather a disappointment. They're already starting to announce some things, and there's already some things that we're catching glimpses of. Starters, Bully Ray, to some degree, is back with the company. I think something no one wants.
Okay.
He's a blowhard. He's a douche. He's just awful. I don't think anyone has ever tuned in since say 2014 and been like, "Oh, Bully Ray, that's what I want to see." I don't know if you're excited about him, Marcus.
I can't. I might be slightly less enthused than you are.
It's gonna be so good though. Now listen, we'll get to why this makes a little sense in a little bit, and I mean only the smallest of sense. But we also kind of have some developing stories around. Um, I'm on Twitter, so y'all may see some stuff. We have EC3 possibly teasing a return to TNA. 1% gimmick and all that. So, you know, that could be interesting. Uh, we have rumors about the Rascals no longer being under contract. That's not the reason why Myron Reed's X Division title match was pulled with Leon Slater. Apparently, Leon Slater is going to be doing the UK tour this week with the WWE. And so that's the rumor. That's why AJ Styles is making an appearance on TNA Impact. Not because they're building up to something, but because they're trying to get a one for one. And TNA has done this before, not just with recent memory with WWE, but when Ric Flair appeared in the Hall of Fame for WWE back in what was it 2012, Christian Cage came back for a night for Slammiversary. Um, there was some stuff I think 2006 or seven, I want to say, where another kind of sort of half deal happened. So that's why this is happening for the most part. I don't know if it's going to be a segment, Marcus, that's worth watching aside from nostalgia, because the one individual people want Styles with, for the most part, aside from maybe, I'd say, if you had to pick one, right? I'd say 20% would be like, oh, I'd love to see him wrestle Frankie Kazarian one more time because they
At
got,
least got to have a run in or something.
right? But like they're the last two members of Fortune still really going. Daniels is retired. Bobby Roode is retired. James Storm is semi-retired. He's doing a lot with doing property stuff. He's
Yeah,
doing a lot of what is
real
that
estate.
called? Thank you. Fuck. I was like, what the hell is
Yeah.
that called? So really, Frankie Kazarian and Salvage, the last two members of Fortune still wrestling, if we're counting the actual core group and not guys like Doug Williams, Matt Morgan, or any of those other guys. I don't
She
count them,
pulled.
right? Like Desmond Wolf. Remember that? Remember when Fortune was like 12 guys? I,
Yeah,
I
man.
remember. So you got all that, kind of boiling up. I think that's about 20% though, Styles and Kazarian. The rest of it, it's Styles and Leon Slater. But with Leon Slater apparently doing the UK tour with WWE, we're not going to get that. And I doubt they're going to have Styles wrestle a match with TNA because why would they? They've consistently fed the lowest of tiers of the NXT talent, and I use that term loosely, to TNA, or I should say vice versa. They fed TNA to the lowest tiers of NXT talent. And again, I use that word loosely. This is not a company and standard that I think people should be optimistic about when it comes to this partnership with the WWE because they've constantly shown that they don't respect TNA. They barely like them, and I think even that at times is pretty evident that they don't like them. They're only
Yeah, man.
with TNA
When
to
you,
piss off AEW.
yeah, I mean, I feel like TNA wants to be Spud from Blade 2. Man, I'd rather be a pet than cattle.
Yeah, well, Scud got killed that movie. It's not a dud. Never name your kid Scud. Just don't. Sorry, Norman Reed. So it's looking like a very all over show. There are rumors, right? Like we've talked about this before. EC3 is rumored to be popping up in TNA, making it his second stint in the promotion. Truly, not just that one off for Slammiversary 2012 or 2020. I mean, um, I have a source close to EC3, and if EC3 is showing up in Impact, he's not saying shit about it. He does have a show in Cleveland on Friday with his Exodus Pro group. So if he did show up on Thursday, he'd fly right back to Cleveland that night or the next morning to do his show because he's set for, I think, a match with NWA wrestler Carson Drake on the event. So if he's more worried about his promotion, which granted is not the major source of his income, I would imagine he would prioritize that over Impact. But if he is more worried about his career than his promotion, which again, he's
Yeah,
trying to build a
it's
brand, I understand why he would prioritize that over his actual in-ring stuff. But then we could probably see him on Thursday if he is showing up in TNA.
as long as he don't go to no parties first with anybody named Patrick and the bathroom stuff is involved.
Yeah, we're gonna avoid talking about that for right now. The other big name that has been linked as of right now is Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is a name that people think might show up in WWE, but there are quote unquote sources that Jericho would be very much on board with appearing in TNA, which is hilarious because like 15 years ago, he basically said he never would. He made fun of people who were in it. It's really easy to talk shit when you're riding high, but when you need these other promotions, all of a sudden you start to be a little bit more open. So we'll see if he actually does end up showing up. Another name that keeps popping up that just makes me mad, right? Is just and it pisses me off so goddamn it so bad. Matt Taven. Now I haven't actually heard anything about him showing up in TNA. In fact, there's a rumor that he's negotiating with the NWA, which thank Christ, get him the fuck away from me. Matt Taven is a mediocre athlete, a subpar wrestler, has zilch in the charisma department. Delirious tried to build the Ring of Honor brand around him, and it sunk the company. Matt Taven could work as a tag team wrestler, right? In a jobber tag team. One that we're not expecting to pay money to go see. I don't want him. I don't want Mike Bennett. I don't want Maria
Oh,
Kanellis. They're
oh
done.
yeah, you're definitely in a relationship.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. No, like, listen, if I
Yeah.
was single, she was single, okay. But
Oh, man. Cooked. Yeah.
they had a run in TNA a decade ago in 2016. And guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It sucked. Mike Bennett, hell of a nice guy.
Miracle.
Hell of a nice
Yeah.
guy. Overcame addiction, decent hand in the ring, got a smoking hot wife. All that is true. Man is not a needle mover. If we were talking about a promotion like AEW or WWE, where you needed someone who could eat some losses on SmackDown or Dynamite, if WCW Saturday Night was still around and you needed someone to sub headline underneath a Buff Bagwell Macho Man Randy Savage main event, or I guess if we're going with a 2026 relevance, an Aleister Black, Akira Tozawa main event, yeah, Mike Bennett would be fine. But TNA needs names. I'm not even saying talent because EC3's knees are fucked. I don't know if he'll ever recover completely, but if you watch him today to what he was a decade ago, completely different wrestler. Chris Jericho has not been quote unquote good in 3 years. And I would still consider both of those additions huge net positives for TNA because they're names. They get you hooked. If you can't get names, you get talent. You get prospects. You get guys who can go. Maybe you get a Danhausen if he's available. Great promo, super charismatic, fans love him. Maybe you get Starboy Charlie. He's apparently got a WWE tryout. Maybe that doesn't work. There's a cat out of EC3's promotion named Dante Casanova. Dude's got this Mayan Jaguar Lord look down. Looks fan fucking tastic. He'd be great. Talent, potential, promo, something.
Yeah.
Don't bring in
Right.
guys like fucking Matt Taven, Mike Bennett. Now, granted, I think Mike Bennett's still under contract with AEW. And like Alex Abrahams or Abrahantes, whatever his name is. Like, don't bring in guys who fundamentally don't move the needle. Don't add
Yeah.
significant value because otherwise you're just going to be stuck in a situation where you're giving time to guys who already don't deserve it. Like, you're already bloating your roster up with guys who, quite frankly, uh, offer nothing. I know we're getting real excited about JDC's retirement match, and we're going to omit. No, we're not. Listen, Dirty Dango was hilarious with Tyler Breeze, right? Hilarious. I don't think anyone, since he debuted in TNA, I don't think anyone has gone, have you seen that JDC promo? Did you see that Jonathan Dango Curtis match? No one. And
And
Marcus, I remember Jim Cornette when he debuted in TNA in 2005. I just hurt my own feelings. Basically, Cornette said like, if you don't move merch, if you don't get people to watch, if you can't put on good matches, I ain't got a job for you. And I do not know why TNA does not follow that mentality. Because I would say 2/3 of the roster, Marcus, if I was a crueler man and I had I would fire 2/3 of this roster. I just would.
But to be fair to the listeners, he's been saying this all year. And
I've
I,
been
I
saying this
can't
since
knock him. The
2020,
thing that really, yeah,
2022. Now it's gone up
was
to two
so,
thirds. It used to be like half,
yeah,
but it's now like two thirds.
yeah.
Every
And my,
time
my
I boot up
solidified
EWR, I'm just like, I'm firing half of you fuckers.
yeah, it's one thing. I don't know if you saw this. One thing that definitely solidified it for me. You saw that thing AMC did where they basically put up a video of all the stars saying stuff they liked or why they got into business or something to that effect. Um,
I did not.
but they did a video like just asking some questions to the stars, and I'm just looking at this video. I'm like, there's not one actual star in this video.
No,
I'm not talking about performers. They're all performers, but I'm talking about legitimate star power, which we have been talking about all year. And normally we'll do this, but I'm kind of in the mood for the little Chad takeaway rant. We talking about, you just said, if you can't get top performers, at least get big names.
yeah,
There's one name in particular that they made sure to let us know about, and it's not a performer. Damn sure ain't been
Jesus
a big name
Christ.
in how long? However many years.
Are you talking about Perez Hilton?
Yes.
So listen, Perez Hilton. If you don't know who he is, let me catch you up on Perez Hilton. In the late 2000s, he was very popular because he had an online gossip blog where he would post catty, mean spirited, I wouldn't say funny, maybe somebody would, takes on celebrity culture, who's wearing what. Eventually got big enough where I think he did some stuff with the E network. One of the biggest things he would often do, though, is try to out people who were gay. Now, Perez himself is gay. That doesn't make it okay. One of the things that, anyone who's ever been in the community will tell you is that you get to control how you come out, when you come out, if you come out. To out someone like that, especially when, well, granted, I wouldn't say today are very calm times for this country, but in an era where it was not as acceptable to be, in the queer lifestyle, LGBTQIA plus or what have you, um, it was far more frowned upon to out somebody, and it's still frowned upon to out somebody, unless they're a Republican congressman. Um, yeah, I wonder why. Why are they okay outing them? Is it because they're trying to squash their civil liberties? But so Perez Hilton, one, is not a good person. Two, has zero appeal to the wrestling fandom. Three, and most importantly, hasn't been culturally significant in probably 14 years. Now, this isn't the first time TNA has done this. I think they had Scott Bale wrestle Eric Young in a park in 2015. So, like,
Yeah.
we and
It's
I'm going to
funny.
say this in
It's
all sincerity, we've seen worse with this company.
it's funny because that was a perfect segue into what I was going to ask you because we've seen just the cavalcade of celebrities that WWE has found out there. Ironically enough, apparently free, which sucks even more when you know that their ticket prices um, very much reflect, ironically enough, this horrible governmental regime we under when it comes to uh, pricing out the middle and lower class. But when WWE does stuff to a certain extent, they at least put like sports figures of the sports teams of those cities on camera and whatnot, even though there's a more egregious stuff. Obviously, you just said we've seen worse. Where does Perez Hilton rank on that? And is this worse than, I guess, the worst of what we've gotten from WWE lately when it comes to like just random celebrities that weren't sports figures?
So here's what I'll say. One of the things that Hilton is insanely charismatic. It's why he became so popular. We could have a Karen Jarrett situation on our hands where he ends up having the promo of the night, the segment of the night, which I doubt. I doubt it's going to happen, but like it could happen. As far as where ranks, we've had Jenna Maraska, so not the worst. We've had Simon Diamonds. I'm sorry, not Simon Diamond. Screech, whatever his name is. He popped up in TNA once. We've had a litany of pro athletes, although I think most of them probably rank higher than this. Um, oh, Johnny Fairplay. So at worst, before the like, listen, it could always be the like, it could absolutely be the worst thing we've ever seen. Right now, before we actually see what he does, I would say the worst he sits at is the fourth worst person because you've had Screech, you had Johnny Fairplay, and you had Jenna Maraska. I really don't know if there's a worse grouping than those three across TNA's history in terms of like celebrity guest stars. I guess uh, who is it? They didn't get JWoww or Snooki. They got the other one. I guess she was terrible.
Yeah, yeah,
Or did they get
that
JWoww?
was not good. I'm about to say, I guess it's not. I guess he's not worse than I guess the Ball family at one time. That was in WWE, but
Yeah,
oh, boy.
Mello dropped a slur. At least we didn't
Yeah,
go hard
yeah,
R. I
yeah.
would say if we're going, so let's give a shorter window. If we're going back to the pandemic era, like from 2020 on, I would say Perez is definitely on the lower end of both the WB and TNA celebrities. I still think the worst since 2020 has been that Land of the Dead zombie battle royal or lumberjack match they did with the Miz and I don't even remember who it was, Aleister Black. That was fucking terrible. Just the fucking worst. So I really can't say
Yeah,
that just about anything Perez Hilton does is going to be as bad as that.
it's funny because real quick. So speaking of the Miz, so he sat down with Van Vliet for an interview, and they got on the topic of obviously him being banned from the locker room. You know that whole story,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about how he got banned over something. Obviously, the chicken thing was egregious. Um, and then he said the person that did it, which we all know who it was at this point, he was like, it went on for a while, and then all of a sudden he was like the person that did it, which he didn't name. He's like, they just went away. And then shout out to our boys at Public Enemies, who's also affiliated with our boys at Powerbomb Jutsu. Quote tweeted and went, "That's the way to say it."
Yeah.
They just went away. Yeah, that's bad. But yeah, the Perez thing is yeah, I don't know what he's thinking. It'll be really interesting. I don't know if there's an actual like long form sit down interview with um Carlos just about the way that he thinks, because he's got to be the one that's coming up with these ideas for this stuff. And I'm like, what? Of all the names, you could have got Perez Hilton. Like, I don't, I mean, you can from the past that you brought in TNA or the UFC star, somebody that at least can, I don't know, bridge the gap in some way. We don't even know if he knows anything about wrestling.
No, that's fair. And also, we're gonna look back at some of the old TV shows that premiered for TNA over the years. What I will tell you is, off the top of my head, I know for a fact that now listen, it's not gonna sound great today. I know that. But in 2005, I'm pretty sure he was the UFC light heavyweight champion at a time when they were underground and cool. They had Tito Ortiz on their premiere episode of Pop. I'm sorry, premiere episode of Spike. Like that. That's pretty fucking impressive. Like you got one of the most popular combat sports stars on your show. That's pretty cool. Now we have
And
Perez Hilton. Like, you know, here's the thing. I'm looking up on. I'm looking at the lineup right now on AMC. I don't know a lot of these shows, but you have the Althea tapes, the Audacity, Better Call Saul, Employee Training. I think some of these might be online only shows. Uh, Comic Book Men, Dark Winds, Fear the Walking Dead. Fear the got a lot of Walking Dead stuff. Uh, Walking Dead. Yeah, I think you're doing Interview with a Vampire. The Mayfair Witches. I don't know if that's still on. Looks like a show called Nautilus. I guess that's a thing. The Rise of the 49ers. Talamasca. Secret Order. A lot of stuff with Anne Rice. The Vampire Lestat, which is based off of Interview with
yeah,
a
to be the
Vampire.
vampire.
Uh,
Yeah,
Bunch of Walking Dead stuff with like Carol and Daryl and Maggie and Negan. They're doing their own thing with like Dead City, I think is one of them. The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon's a show. One Who Lives.
yeah, milk it to death. Huh?
Listen, not the strongest lineups they've ever had, but like you could have reached out to AMC like, hey, do you think Negan or Daryl Dixon like think they'd want to pop up? People fucking love the guy who plays Negan. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He was John Winchester in Supernatural as well, and
He was also
Paul Wayne.
yes, thank you. He was also yes,
He
Daddy
was
Wayne.
he was Daddy
And
Wayne in the
yeah,
Zack Snyderverse. Him and his actual real life. No, not his real life wife. I think it was Maggie from The Walking Dead. Was his mom? Is
yeah,
Bruce Wayne's mom?
yeah. It's
Like
so
people
it's
love him. They love
yeah, man.
Daryl Dixon. I forget his name as well. Even though I already said it. Norman Reedus. You could have gotten so many names from the actual. You could have called it, hey, John Hamm, you're doing commercials. You want to show up for a wrestling show? You don't even got to do anything. We'll give you 10 grand. Just show up in the audience.
Give him a script or something like now. I don't know, a backstage with somebody like I. And this would have been a good opportunity. I don't know. Again, no foresight for whatever final reason. You could have did to WWE because they just floods they Stranger Things episode or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. They just absolutely tolerated that whole thing. You
Yeah.
could have did to WWE inadvertently what New Japan did with the retirement of legendary Tanahashi to John Cena's retirement.
Hmm.
No, you want to get Rez Elton, not Negan, not like you said, Daryl Dixon, or anybody from those shows. This is how many actors you got across all everything you just mentioned.
A lot. You got a lot of options, and for some reason they don't want to take them. Let's see. Just out of curiosity, what's on Wednesday night at? You have Unstoppable, the train movie. Like, yeah, White House Down. Is there anything on Friday that's like no? I wonder if they're even airing any original shows at the moment. Monday the 19th, more movies in the prime time slots. That's what we're looking. Tuesday you got oh, you gotta remember the Titans and the Replacements back to back. Pretty good outing. I wouldn't say that's great for their product. Men in Black, the Replacements. So it looks like they're not airing any original television shows at the moment. Could you explain why TNA got the slot they did? Although, next week, TNA Impact, followed by My Cousin Vinny. That's too bad, but
Mm.
can't say that's bad. That's too bad. Um, but with all that being said, we do have some confirmations of guys who have re-signed. Mustafa Ali, Cedric Alexander, the Hardys, and Danny Luna have all re-signed. I don't know if their returns or re-upping of their contracts is good enough to get us to this point. But what I will say, pretty matter of factly, is that there's also a rumor that Steve Macklin has resigned, and I know that's going to make a lot of people pretty excited, only because he's really endeared himself to the TNA audience. And while I'm still not a major fan of his, I am a major fan of anyone who will bring people in to the product. And if people
Yeah,
really
he's
has a affinity for him and can, get more eyes on the product, that's what I want for this company. I want
yeah,
talent that are TNA talent,
yeah,
and I want them to have an identity. And if even if they're guys that I don't love, as long as they're bringing people in that some fans do and that can bring people in, hell yeah.
yeah. They could actually use that. I got a lot of respect for Macklin because I could tell early on that he was trying to very much make himself the workhorse, one of the workhorses of the company. Obviously, at the time he would be behind Alexander because we know what the type of work he put in. But he's very much made himself the workhorse of the company, which I very much appreciate. And they actually need more people like Macklin in terms of the stuff he's willing to do, the rate he's willing to do it, and the fact that he's clearly loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Because not that they're not necessarily uh, aiding in that regard to kind of be disloyal when you, I guess, either lowball people or let people's contracts lapse for whatever final reason, as if sadly that's the old trope with this company. Uh, but yeah, so I am glad they were able to re-sign Ali. The Hardys have been real big for them, and I think uh, Macklin provides a lot of stability for them.
He does. He does. Both in the ring and as someone that can carry the banner, if we will.
Yeah,
So, with that said, let's talk a little bit of what we should expect from this week's show. Could be a very entertaining showdown. Huzzah. Done it. So on the first, so we've this is now I think the sixth time. One, two, three, four, five, six, seventh. This is now the seventh new channel, not counting regional television in 2002 and 2003 that TNA has been on. TNA did have a second show, does have a second show called Explosion. Back when they were doing the NWA TNA stuff, Explosion would air um, locally on syndication for some people. I think they're in like 20 or 30 markets. It wasn't a widely seen show, and a lot of that is kind of lost media unless they had something on the TNA website that I'm unaware of. But not counting them. Now, the seventh new show, or seventh new network, I should say, that the promotion is going to be on. We go back to 2004 real quickly, 22 years ago. They appeared on Fox Sport Net, I want to say in the summer, say June, July. And outside of a couple matches, the first match ever being, at least that was broadcasted, was Amazing Red, Sanjay Dutt, and Hector Garza Sr. taking on P.D. Williams, Bobby Roode, and Eric Young in a, what was it, Super X Cup. I think it was like the Super X Cup or it was the International X Cup, whatever they were calling it at the time. World X Cup, I think is what it was called. Of course, in the main event had Styles defeating Chris Sabin, Elite Skipper, and Matt Bentley. But the big match of the show was actually a NWA World Tag Team Title match featuring AMW. Of course, you see Chris Harris now here on the screen. AMW taking on Kid Cash and the man that we now know as Lance Archer, then known as Dallas for some reason. Solid tag team title match. I think AMW won their fourth tag titles in that match. Uh, The other kind of big moment was that Dusty Rhodes and Jeff Jarrett had a face to face, and then Vince Russo had a promo. No debuts on this show, no big returns, but you see the first inkling of what would be kind of a running tradition for all but one episode of Impact, which is the title change. We had new tag team champions crowned, which again, come this week, we have a world title match. Talk about that here in a little bit. So that's your first one. Your next premiere was in, I want to say it was what, September or October of 2005. This is when they landed on Spike TV. They had been without a TV deal since, I think, April of that year. And they announced their new deal in July, but they had to wait for the WWE, who was also on Spike TV at the time, to leave Spike TV to go back to USA. And once they went back to the USA Network, Spike TV brought TNA in, and they didn't have a big title match. In fact, they did, but it was prior to the event at a Border Championship Wrestling or whatever the hell it was event. Maybe it was like a Canadian Pro Wrestling event. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was ran by Scott D'Amore. Raven, who was then the world champion, lost to Jeff Jarrett in a screw job after AMW turned heel and cost Raven the NWA's world title match. He had been the champion of TNA since Slammiversary. Spike TV executives wanted a familiar name that they could build the show around, and they wanted Jeff Jarrett. That's why Raven lost. So no big title matches on this episode of Impact. No big title changes. Best of my records, this is the only time that didn't happen. What did happen though was this was the build up to Bound for Glory, 2005. Kevin Nash would return to close the show, but also Team 3D, Brother Ray, Brother Devon, Bubba Ray, Devon Dudley, would debut for the company in the closing segment of the show, which at the time was the biggest addition TNA had ever gotten full time. Now, Sting showing up, bigger deal. Hulk Hogan possibly doing something in 2003, bigger deal. In fact, the first ever Bound for Glory was set to be in 2003 with Jeff Jarrett versus Hulk Hogan in the main event. Never happened. But as far as full time roster additions, Team 3D's arrival was probably the biggest bet that they've had up until that point. Topped only, a month later by Christian Cage joining, and then eventually Sting, and then Kurt Angle. So big moment in history there. The other kind of big thing that happened on this event was of course, fallout of Raven losing the world title. Now, this isn't the most famous Spike TV episode. In fact, I know a lot of people will be like, well, their first prime time, because it wasn't aired in prime time. Their first prime time outing is generally seen as being a bigger deal. Their first live broadcast, there's like a lot of firsts on Spike TV. I'm just looking at the very first episode, just to keep it simple. Uh, we go to the start of the down years, 2015. Uh, this actually had, I think, more significance in terms of what it gave to the fans than the three prior episodes or two prior episodes. We had, of course, the opening show brawl. They arrived at the Manhattan Center in New York. Bobby Lashley's crew and Bobby Roode's crew had a big old brawl to start the show. I know you remember that. We were covering that show. And we've been doing this
Yeah,
for a while.
yeah.
We were young men once, Marcus. Boys, babies. We are wild and young. Uh, we had two big title matches on this show. X Division title match, which saw actually I think we had three, but the tag title match saw the Revolution, Abyss and James Storm. I think it was who it was, and over the Wolves. Austin Aries became the new X Division champion, defeating Low Key. Awesome Kong, who had been gone from the company since I think 2010, returned. And in the main event, Bobby Lashley, if I remember correctly, won his first world championship with Bobby against Bobby Roode to close out the show. So you're starting to see kind of a pattern now. Title matches on the first show. The Spike TV title match, Spike TV debut didn't have a title match. That would be it though, because then we go to Pop TV. Actually, there was another one that match. Pop TV. James Storm returns to TNA after I think 2 years gone. This is now 2016. Mike Bennett debuts. Granted, he didn't do much with the company, but at the time it was a big deal. He got put on the debut of TNA on Pop TV. Then of course we had Awesome Kong still in her run. I think near the ending of her run with TNA for the second time. Joins the Dollhouse. Major shakeup for that promotion, that stable group. Then in the main event, EC3 defeats Matt Hardy in the what was it, the World Title Series to win the vacant TNA World Title. So again, another major title change, another major event. That was definitely something there. I got I don't know. I really didn't have the right pop. Oh no. Oh well. Then we cut to Pursuit. Pursuit was a nothing burger. Pursuit was a last second deal to get them on television. Pursuit was a hunting channel that no one watched. And the only thing that can really be said about their run on Pursuit is that Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, Kevin Cross, Chris Cross, Applesauce, got a lot of airtime. He got booked well. Him and Scarlett Bordeaux both had some big segments, but nothing really happened. This takes us to the last premiere in history for TNA, which was the premiere with Access TV. No debuts, no big returns, but Sami Callihan defeats Brian Cage in the main event in a steel cage match to win the TNA World Championship. I think if we count the Spike TV premiere, we've had Jeff Jarrett, first appearance as NWA World Champion with the company since beating Raven. We then had Bobby Roode losing to Bobby Lashley in 2015. EC3 defeating Kurt Angle in 2016. Then we had Sami Callihan defeating Brian Cage in 2019. It's all but a foregone conclusion at this point that Mike Santana wins come Thursday. They're shaping it up to be possibly the stupidest fucking booking we've ever seen. NXT's rumored to be involved. Bully Ray sitting ringside. It's it's gonna suck. I have a bad feeling about this match. But if past precedence is a sign of future outcomes, Mike Santana should win the TNA World Title because every time we've gone to a new network with a world champion that's kind of in dispute, this is what happens. So, Marcus, do you think we should be looking forward to the TNA World Title match here, or are you concerned like I am?
That's concerned. I expect it to be a pretty solid match because of the guys that's in it, but it's almost a foregone conclusion who's winning. Hopefully, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that he should be defending the championship and not chasing it. But um, I'm just hoping it's a solid match with no. And this is intentionally crossing my fingers, even though it's likely the contrary because of what's past this prologue with these companies, damn title matches. Hopefully, it's a solid outing that gets some good time with no interference, which I know what I'm asking for when I say that. But like, they just need to let them two just go out there and just do what they do uninterrupted.
That would be preferred. It looks like the only guy who did not have to wrestle for the world title on an event was Johnny Impact. He had just won it at Bound for Glory, and they were building up to Brian Cage versus Johnny Impact. So that was the only instance because I don't think TNA wanted to leave Pop at that moment. I think they were set to join Access in the fall, but I think their contract with Pop expired, and I don't think they could come to a agreement that covers that stretch of time. So I think he ended up. I think they ended up leaving the promotion or leaving the channel because of that situation. So we'll see if Mike Santana can continue the trend. Because hopefully Santana gets the belt back because he's been screwed pretty heavily. The sad thing
Oh,
is if TNA was actually going to put money into the roster and not just shams, Perez Hilton, I feel like you could have re-signed Joe Hendry. Now maybe he didn't want to re-sign. You could have had Joe Hendry turn heel, same gimmick, just with a more villainous kind of presentation. And you could have had that be the main event of Bound for Glory, and you could have had that rematch been the rematch of tonight or Thursday night. And I think that would have been a pretty decent deal because Santana and Joe Hendry, while Santana, was in AEW for 5 years, I would still say Santana's a homegrown TNA star because if it wasn't for his run with um, Ortiz from like 2017 to 2019, we don't get Santana. And I feel like Santana and Joe Hendry should be, a feud that was touched on multiple times throughout their run together. We just never got it. So I'm hoping TNA can start to make some amends to this and start to build up some other homegrown stars that Santana can feud with. But we lost Jake something. We lost Killer Kelly. We lost apparently the Rascals. They may resign, but I feel like we're losing all of the talent on the roster. We lost Ace Austin, Speedball, Josh Alexander, Deanna Pratzo, Jordan Grace, Taya Valkyrie. And it feels like every time we're getting someone good, we end up losing them pretty quickly. And it infuriates me that we're spending money on things that fans don't actually want to see, like Perez Hilton, especially with this AMC money, which is apparently supposed to be 30, 40 million dollars for TNA. To not spend money on your roster and improve it, fucking sham. Just a sham operation. So I'm not hopeful for this episode of Impact. I'm sitting here very trepidatiously. I have my concerns. I am, for lack of a better word, fearful of what's to come.
yeah,
Genuine trepidation.
yeah.
What did you think about when you saw Jake something show up on AEW television?
I just shook my head because I would imagine it was very vulnerable had they booked him the way you book somebody that looks and moves like that. And even with a name, uh, very much off key, if you will, first time you hear about it. But yeah, it just like I said, it was disappointing because it just feels like we've been watching like a slow hemorrhage in a lot of ways, and they just instead of containing the bleed, they try to find a way to make it look cool. Not cool.
No. And with the last year or two, especially since Delirious has joined as the one of the head bookers, the product just hasn't been. And now I have to worry about NXT's involvement with the main event. I have to worry about them doing just stupid ass, over the top booking situation. And I think if you're optimistic for this Thursday, I think that's fine. I don't think it's real, truthfully. I think this is a situation where the more concern you have, the better. Because while they've got probably their biggest TV deal since Spike TV, I wouldn't say it was bigger than Spike TV. Spike TV brought them millions. And while AMC in 2005 may be bigger than Spike TV in 2005, AMC in 2025 or 2026 is not bigger than Spike TV was in 2005. So I can't say that this is their biggest TV deal. It's not. But just because they're on AMC does not mean that the product is going to just get better. And I'm hopeful that it does, but serious changes need to happen before it does get better. Um, Improving the roster, bringing in better talent, having a show that people actually want to tune in to see with names people actually want to pay money to see, all that matters. And we'll see if they're able to put something together this week. Marcus, any final thoughts on this week's episode of Impact that's coming up Thursday?
Oh man, just fingers crossed, man. Like you said, we've been kind of going through it all, and we've had an up and down year talking about them last year. Some high spots, felt like a lot of low ones, just because a lot of times, feel like you know, just getting their own way. Um, but this is a big deal. They haven't been on TV in some, you know, in a long time, and it's gonna be good to be able to sit back, turn on a channel, and tune in to the Impact once again. So, if nothing else, I look at that as an achievement, and just like I said, the two of us, I'm usually more cautiously optimistic. I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic here, going with middling expectations, and I just hope to come out on the other side without us having to do another come to Jesus emergency pod about the doggone company.
Here's hoping that something does happen in that regard, but right now it's fair to say that shouldn't be too optimistic. We'll see some new names. I don't know if we'll see any good matches. I don't know if the Styles promo will be worth anything. I think there's a Knockouts Tag Team title match. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Uh,
real quick, do you
yeah,
think anything about the TV deal allows them to help them with like upscaling with the budget of the presentation of the show?
one would hope so, but also I think their presentation has been pretty good. I don't think that we're in a situation where it looks so bad or has any issues that we should be sitting there talking about like, hey, they need a setup, they need a new entry ramp, they need a new ring design. I don't think we're there,
Yeah,
and I think all things considered, they have a pretty good look. But
gotcha.
I wouldn't mind a new setup just to mark the occasion. But they've gotten better with it. I just don't know what they would do unless they went classic.
Yeah,
Go back with the tunnels. I'd be down for the tunnels.
absolutely.
So, any final thoughts on this week's show, Marcus?
All for me.
All right. So with that being said, we're done for this week. We'll be back next week for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at NerdCorp, NERDCRP. We're on YouTube.com at Wrestling Underground. We're on Twitch.tv on Wrestling Underground there as well. I intend on going back to Twitch.tv for live shows. 'Cause we need to figure out why we keep having issues with Discord and Twitch at the same time. Got to figure that. Marcus, you can be found on Twitter at Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
Me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TRUENYSHOW. Marcus, what's coming up on The True Penny Show this week?
Right now we kind of just running some of our back half stuff from the year. So I'm not on this particular show, but we do have obviously everything coming off New Japan, New Year's Dash, obviously the Dome show, and then New Year's Dash afterwards. And yeah, also go check out the third part of the Life and Times of Stan, the Larry Hansen, the great trilogy right there. Like I said, check out the third part as well as everything coming off of New Japan. And be on the lookout for stuff at the top. back half of the month as we kick off this year with some interesting stuff. So just be on the lookout.
You can also find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCrp, and on the Instagram at Chad Soto at CHRTO. We got the award show next week. Now, listen, next week's gonna have a lot of stuff. We got Genesis. We got the debut of the Impact on AMC. We may push the awards to the week after, depending on what everything happens. If the shows suck, right? If Genesis is terrible, like as bad as Impact has been as a weekly show, their live events are always at least watchable. Like their bigger events are always at least watchable. So like we may not have a lot of TNA conversation. We may have a lot of TNA conversation. If it's terrible, it will just be all the wrestling award show. We'll have a brief passing to start the show, and we'll just do the results. If it's a great set of shows, I could see us doing the award show the week after. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. It's historically us on brand to do the 2020 whatever the prior year award show a month into the new year. Typically us.
Yeah, yeah,
Typically
it's
us.
our Christmas lights.
It
Yeah,
really is. It's finally time to put the Christmas tree away. Take it out to the curb so it doesn't set the house on fire. So keep an eye out for all that. That's coming up here in the next 2 weeks. Other than that, for Marcus, I'm Chad. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. Marcus, take it home.